Hi, my name is Richard Duffy. I am the General Manager for Enterprise here in Asia Pacific. And what I'd like to do in today's session is I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction to Enterprise and what the opportunity is for you as an SAP Business One partner, and what the opportunity is for you to take Enterprise to your customer base, not only your existing customer base, but also potential new customers. And we also want to talk about how you can utilize the solution to help you effectively sell more SAP Business One deals. And I know that's something which will be music to many people's ears. So as part of this process, what I thought I would do is just quickly start off by explaining to you what Enterprise is, and importantly, what Enterprise is not. Because it's important to understand that Enterprise is not a replacement for SAP Business One. In order for Enterprise to really work effectively, you have to be an SAP Business One customer. So you have to have an SAP Business One deployment, and that SAP Business One deployment, once it's all configured and you're up and running, that's basically all you need for Enterprise to then be attached to that SAP Business One deployment and all the functionality that's available inside Enterprise that I'm going to take you through in today's session will then automatically be available for you. So when you look at the different areas of functionality in Enterprise, the sales functionality, the delivery functionality, service, procurement, and so on, it's important to understand that these areas of functionality are really designed to supplement what's in SAP Business One. For example, I spend a lot of time talking to SAP Business One partners, and one of the questions that I often get is people say, well, look, we've done a lot of work customizing the SAP Business One solution. We've built formatted searches on the sales order screen. We've created additional user-defined fields. We've written an add-on that does pricing management for my customer. Will all of that automatically be available in Enterprise? And the short answer to that is no. What Enterprise is designed for, it's designed to help you get SAP Business One functionality into the hands of more people inside your customers' organizations. But it's not designed to replace the SAP Business One user interface and that rich functionality that exists in the SAP Business One user face. All right, so that's a very important point to note. Now, the best way of actually reinforcing that is to take you through and give you a demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, also, please feel free to make a note of all of the usernames and passwords and URLs that I'm using here, because after you've had the opportunity to watch today's session, you'll be able to go and try it for yourself. So again, the URL, fairly simple one, easy to remember, just enterpryze.com with a Pryze. Okay, so enterpryze.com. And then when you get to that URL, this is where you log onto the system, whether you're doing a demonstration or whether you're a customer who's actually running live on Enterprise. You want to log into the cloud front end for Enterprise. So to do that, you simply click here on Login. And then what that does, that will spin up the app's front end. And you'll then be asked for a username and password, which will allow you to log into the system. Now, the standard demo environment that we have set up, because Enterprise is an Irish company, the standard demo environment we've got set up is actually hooked into an SAP Business One demo database for Ireland. So bear that in mind. So when you're looking at all these records and you're saying, well, these aren't in Australia, or they're not in Singapore, or they're not in China, or whatever, well, that's because it is working off an Irish demo database. Now, as an SAP Business One partner, if you are interested in taking on Enterprise and offering it to your customers, what we can do is we can provision a demo environment for you and hook it into your back-end Business One demo system. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the end. But anyway, when you are provisioned as an enterprise organization, i.e. the company is being given access to Enterprise, each user gets a sign-in account. So the one that I'm going to use for today's demo is demo1@enterpryze.com. And the password is all lowercase, demo, the number 1, and the word user. So demo1 user, no spaces, all lowercase. So you put that in and then you hit login. So what the system's then going to do is it's going to present you with the first component of Enterprise. Now, when you think of Enterprise, think of two different components. You have the web-based app, which is what I'm going to show you in today's session, and then each of the functional areas that you see across the top in the menu there are also represented in a series of mobile apps, and those mobile apps will run in online or offline mode on your iOS device or your Android device. So as we're going through each one of these areas, if you're saying, well, I've got users in the company who they just really need to have access to the delivery functionality, no problem, they just get the delivery app. If you've got users who need to be able to enter expenses, they get the expense app. If you've got users who, your salespeople out on the road who need to raise quotes, who need to track sales opportunities through the Business One CRM, well, you'll give them access to sales. If you've got service technicians on the road who you need to allocate jobs to and then track the time and materials they spend on those jobs, then the service app will deliver that. And of course, you can actually have all of those apps switched on for a user, but we'll take a look at that in a little while. So the logical first thing to do when you log on to a company is to get a 360-degree view and see all of the transactions and all of the master file records that you might want to interact with in your back-end SAP Business One system. So what Enterprise is doing is you set up your SAP Business One and all of the functionality, except for a couple of small things, but all the functionality takes all of its settings from SAP Business One. So there is very little services involved in deploying Enterprise, right? We just implement it, we provision you a site, we install the Enterprise data service on the client's SAP Business One system, whether it's HANA or SQL, whether it's running on-premise or in the cloud, really doesn't matter. That Enterprise data service will hook into that and then we'll provide that connection into the Enterprise cloud. But what you'll see here on the user interface, it shows you who you are as a user. It'll give you a little company icon. And then down the side here, if you've got, say, 3, 4, 5 companies set up in SAP Business One, assuming you've got access to them, they will then come up here in the list. And swapping from one company to another, it's one click and it's instantaneous. All right, and that's because we've done some really smart things on the cloud side to facilitate that process, because we understand the whole, logging on, logging off process to swap between companies is cumbersome, and we don't want to have you go through that. So anyway, back to the main area. This is the 360-degree view, and you can see all these different transactions that are available. Now, when I first log in, it's showing me my transactions, but if I want to see all the transactions in my entire company, then funnily enough, I just click on all transactions, and you can see here there's 28 opportunities, 51 quotes, 62 orders, and so on. And now, of course, as you would expect, if I want to drill down on that, one click will then just drill down and it'll bring up a list of all of those sales orders. And you'll see this URL or this order number is highlighted. So one click will then bring up that sales order. Now, of course, I can click here on cancel. And then I get a cancellation confirmation message, and then that will cancel that sales order, all right? Or I can go back up here. If I just wanted to go back, I can use the breadcrumbs that appear across the top. So you can see, again, one click drills me down to that sales order, and then to go back, I simply click up here on the breadcrumbs. Now, if I want to create a new sales order, fairly straightforward, right? Create a new sales order. And then I'm now into the functionality that anybody who wants to take orders or enter quotes would be familiar with SAP Business One. So I pick my customer from the list. I pick who's my contact at that customer. I nominate who I am as a salesperson. Right now I'm the Demo 1 salesperson. And then I start selecting the products that I want on this sales order. Now, notice here, I'm not sure if you noticed that, but as soon as I change the quantity or as soon as I add an item to the order, you'll see it comes up here and it says checking in SAP. And that's because all of the pricing rules and everything like that you've set up in SAP Business One are automatically reflected out into Enterprise. So again, that's where I said you set up your Business One system, you switch on Enterprise, and effectively you're ready to go. The client has access to this web-based functionality, and then they also, once they've downloaded the app for their platform of choice, either iOS or Android, and you've enabled them through the setup, then they can go ahead and start using it. Now, people often say, well, all right, Richard, so what functionality or what license do I need in SAP Business One to use Enterprise? Well, the good news is, if your customer is already licensed with a professional or a limited user license, then all they need to do is license themselves for Enterprise. Okay, and we have localized pricing for each country in which we operate. For example, in Europe, it's €9.95 per user per month. In Australia, it's $9.95 AUD, so Australian dollars, $9.95 per user per month. All right, so all they need then is that license as well. But let's say they don't have an SAP Business One user. Well, they need to have an SAP Business One user to utilize Enterprise, because that's the way that SAP have licensed the product. But here's the good news. They only need an add-on access functionality user. So, for example, in Australia, I think that user type is about $250. And remember, that's a one-off purchase price if you're using the perpetual license pricing. So it's that $250 or thereabouts plus GST, and then you pay your annual maintenance on that. Right, so it basically means that you can get SAP Business One functionality into the hands of more users than you've ever been able to before. All right, so again, that's a little bit about that model. But let's dive back. Let's go back to our 360-degree view. So again, you see, here's all my transactions. Now I can see all of my customers that I've got here down the side. And of course, I can go ahead and I can start doing a search. So if I want to search for Andrew products, all right, you'll see, it might help if I could actually type correctly. If I type Andrew, then it brings up all of the customers that have got the word Andrew anywhere in their customer name. So that search is very, very fast. And then when I'm looking at that customer here, what do you see on the side? Well, you see a map showing their location, and then you see all of the transactions that are sitting there for that customer. How many contacts do you have with that customer? How many activities? How many sales opportunities have you got? Quotes, and so on and so forth. So again, designed to be very, very intuitive. So then as you go across the top, if you dive into the sales functionality, moves you out of the 360-degree view in Enterprise, and you're now looking at this from a salesperson's perspective. So you get to see your pipeline, leads, first meetings, second meetings, quotes. Now again, where does it pick up all this configuration from? From your back-end SAP Business One system. All right, so I can see my pipeline. Then I can drill down and I can look at all the opportunities inside the company. I can look at the entire pipeline for the whole company, or I can look at my opportunities. And so this is now just showing me my opportunities. Now, you can then drill down on each one of those opportunities and start working with it. So you can adjust the closing percentage. You can go in, you can change the level of interest, and so on and so forth. And all you have to do that is you click on edit. You can also create a sales quote for this opportunity, and then all of that information then automatically gets stored inside SAP Business One in real time. All right, very, very important to note that. But then I can go back to my sales opportunities and get that overall view. But if I'm looking at my pipeline, let's say, for example, I just had my first meeting with Access Computers. And, you know, they've got a project building or a building project that they're doing here. And that went really well, and it's now time to move it to the next stage in our pipeline, which is a second meeting. Well, all you do is you click and drag that information across to the next section in your pipeline, so the next stage, and then it asks you for additional information as you are familiar with in SAP Business One when you move an opportunity to the next stage in the sales process. So I just hit save there, and you'll see you get a little message telling you the stage has been saved, and there it is. It's now back at the second. It's now at the second meeting stage. All right. So that click, that drag and drop functionality is there in the web app. Let's take a look at another area. Let's say I'm looking at my sales orders. I'm going to go and create a new sales order. All right. And then we're going to turn that into a delivery. Now, again, remember, today's session is not about going through every module in detail. We'll be providing you with detailed demonstrations of each of the modules as well as the mobile apps, really just to give you a flavor of what Enterpryze is all about. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a new sales order. And again, same scenario. All right, I've got this information. Now, let's say your SAP Business One system is down for maintenance. The good thing about Enterpryze is you can continue to use the web app, all right? Because what we've done is all of the SAP Business One data is kept in a database on the Enterpryze cloud server. So it's synchronized, and that gives you the ability to work offline. But when the Business One system comes back online, the updates are instantaneous, all right? So anyway, I'm going to pick my customer. So it's ADA Technologies. And I was talking to Mary Brown about this one. The date for the order is actually the 22nd of March. And I want it posted in SAP Business One on the 23rd of February. So then again, I'm just going through here. I'm going to select the products that I want. So I want one of those. And then I'm going to add a new line. And I want an office print, because let's face it, every building project, not only does it need composite deck board, but it also needs a printer. So let's say we got 2 of those. And again, you see that checking in SAP. Now, I can go in here if I want to, if I've got the rights, and I can override that unit price. I can also go and put in a discount percentage, but those are the prices that are there. Oh, and by the way, the currencies are all picked up from your SAP Business One deployment as well. 1 currency per order. That's a question that I often get. People say, oh, can I have different lines with different currencies? Right now, the idea behind Enterpryze, it's about simplicity. Okay, it's not about replacing the entire SAP Business One experience. If they want the full SAP Business One experience, then the client needs to purchase the full SAP Business One user. All right, this is really about extending it out. If you've got 30 salespeople, and before it was just too expensive to give them all access to SAP Business One, not anymore with Enterpryze. All right, so there's my 2 lines are added. So now I'll hit save. Now, we've configured Enterpryze so that as soon as I save this sales order, it's going to send an email to the customer saying, hey, thank you very much for your order. Here's the confirmation. And all of those templates can be edited and modified by you as the partner or by your client. So I'm going to say, okay, and that email then gets sent off. All right, and my sales order has now been saved. So there it is. There's my sales order. There's all the details. And now I can go back to my sales orders, and you'll see there it is. There's my new sales order sitting there, number 571. So time has come to deliver that sales order. All I do now is I go up here into the delivery functionality, and those clients that you have that are in the wholesale and distribution are going to love this capability, because what it does, it basically allows you to now start scheduling deliveries against the delivery drivers that you have. If you need to give customers specific dates and times when deliveries will be made, you can track and manage all of that, and you can schedule it. And then your delivery driver on their mobile device, be it an iPhone, be it an Android, using the Enterpryze delivery app, will then be able to see all the deliveries they have. It will give them directions because it's got the location functionality turned on. It'll show them how to get from where they are to where they need to be to make the delivery. And then when they get there, you'll see this when we do the demo of the mobile app. When they get there, they can get the customer to sign on the app as the proof of delivery. Or if, let's say, for example, they're delivering to a restaurant, and the restaurant says, "Well, look, leave it with the restaurant next door, or leave it with the butcher next door," or whatever the case may be. When the delivery driver makes that delivery, they can take a picture of where the product was left. Okay, so that's really, really cool. But anyway, back to our delivery functionality, and what you can now see is I've got all of my sales orders, or all of these sales orders for the company. I can just say, I only want to see the sales orders that I am responsible for. All right. And so there it is, order 571. Then what I can do is I can go here into the scheduler. Now this is where it gets really nifty. And by the way, this scheduler functionality is also available in the service module. So these are my employees right now who I've got configured in the system. So I can specify, look, I want to see or just these 2 different employees. And these are my 2 delivery drivers. So I can see what deliveries they've got scheduled for each day. And you'll see it's automatically refreshing that information. And then all I need to do is when I want to allocate this delivery to one of those delivery drivers, let's say I want it delivered on on Thursday the 23rd, because you'll see this is posting on the 22nd. Actually, this is March, so probably a little bit sooner than that. But anyway, I can take that order, and all I do is I drag it and drop it into an available delivery slot for my delivery driver. So I'm going to make that delivery at 8 a.m. on that day. So I drag and drop, and you'll see that delivery has now been scheduled. All right, and it will then, there it is, it now appears in the schedule for that delivery driver for that day. So now that delivery driver logs onto their mobile app, and bang, that delivery is sitting there waiting for them. Oh, and by the way, customer gets an email if you've switched it on saying, good news, your delivery has been scheduled for Wednesday the 22nd at 3 p.m. And so on and so forth. Okay, so really, really flexible, really, really powerful, but simple. Okay, there are other applications out there that you can use for managing your deliveries and so on and so forth, but they are very complex and very, very expensive. Again, I keep harping on this because it's important to understand. Enterprise is about low cost and simplicity. All right, if you need the most complex routing and delivery optimization functionality known to man, don't look at Enterprise, because that's not the market that we're going after. All right, this is for the 80% of the Business One customers out there who just want to get that functionality into the hands of more of their users. All right, classic example of getting functionality in the hands of more users is expense entry. Think about it. If you have a customer and they've got maybe 30 or 40 people and 20 people have to do expense entry. Right now, without a solution like Enterprise, the alternatives are pretty expensive, okay? Whether it's Concur or whatever the case may be, they're pretty expensive, and there's a lot of services involved in getting them up and running. Those of you who've been down that path will know that to be true. What Enterprise is really all about is simplifying that process, but the beauty of Enterprise is that all of your authorizations, all of your approvals, all get done inside Enterprise. Doesn't have to be done inside SAP Business One. So the approvals, the authorization all happen inside Enterprise, and then it just gets pushed back into SAP Business One as an accounts payable invoice against the employee when it's time to reimburse them for their expenses. All right, so hopefully you're getting a pretty good understanding of what we're trying to do here with Enterprise. So, I can see my expense claims that have been put in. I can see all the expense claims across the organization. I have the ability to then look at my expense review screen, and what this will show me is it will show me all the expenses for a specific person. That then gives me the ability to approve or reject the expenses or reassign them for that matter. Or if I want to, as their manager, I can even go and edit those expenses. So let's say I want to allocate it to a different cost center. And of course, we read in automatically all the Business One GL account codes, as well as the cost center dimensions that you might have set up in the system, right? Very, very powerful functionality there as well. Final thing I'm going to show you in today's session is how the setup works. Now, if I click here on setup, you'll see there's actually quite a few options. I'm not going to go through these one by one, all right? But this is where the system basically reads in what's set up in your SAP Business One system. Now you will upload your organization logo, so those can then be used on your emails and your screens and everything like that. But then that's basically it. The currency and everything else gets picked up from your SAP Business One deployment. And how does that happen? Well, we have the Enterprise data service, and you download that simply from here, and you will run it. It's a setup.exe. You will run it on a machine that has access to your SAP Business One data. It can be an existing server. It can be a standalone PC, as long as it's got the DI API loaded, all right, because we use the DI API for all of our communication through to SAP Business One. The Enterprise Data Service is our piece, and it works through the DI API to do all of that. Now, if you're thinking, hang on, well, the DI API doesn't support online, offline, all those kinds of things you're talking about, Richard. Well, that doesn't matter because it's the Enterprise Cloud Server and the Enterprise Data Service that manage all of that process for you. So you'll download the EDS, you'll install it, and then you go in here and you put in the URL where that is located. So now if you're sitting behind a firewall, you only need to open one port, and you put the IP address of where that machine is. Now, if you want to get into all the nitty gritty about, network address translations and port mapping and all that kind of stuff, we can help you out with all of that during the deployment. But literally, it shouldn't take you any more than about 5 minutes to get the integration set up between your SAP Business One and the Enterprise Data Service and the Enterprise Cloud Server, because we've made it so damn simple. Now then, if you want to check whether or not your integration's working, you click here on show the test panel, then you just type in a name of one of the tables inside your SAP Business One. In this case, I'm going to pick the OCRD. All right, and there it is. You can see it's actually working in real time, reading that information from your OCRD table. All right, so we know everything's working fine, and that's basically it. Now, the first time after you've installed the integration, you do your first time data import, and that just initializes all of the files in the Enterprise Cloud Server, and then the system then keeps those in sync. And that's what gives us the ability to do online and offline. All right, even if your Business One goes offline, if you lose your internet capabilities, if you lose your internet connection between your mobile apps and the internet, those mobile apps work offline, and then they'll automatically detect when your internet connection's back up, and all transactions will then start immediately synchronizing and flowing through. So, some really smart work has gone into doing this. Even some other things that we've done that I won't bore you with today, but if you're more interested in the technology, in the future sessions, I'll do a detailed deep dive into the technology behind Enterprise, because there is an API that we have with our application. And that API is what allows us to do things like integration into payment mechanisms like Stripe. So if you want to be able to start taking payments from your customers, right now we support Stripe, which is a worldwide payment integration gateway. And through our API, we're actually able to, and we are adding more of those different payment engines, as well as integration through to all kinds of other things, integration through to different email systems, integration through to marketing systems, and so on. But you'll see that coming for those of you who are heading to one of the SAP SMB Innovation Summits, or maybe you might be watching this after the SAP SMB Innovation Summit, quite a mouthful. We will have talked about all of those different things there. And of course, as each one of these new features and functions comes out, I would encourage you to keep in touch with us. Watch our regular podcast that I'm putting together, and we'll be launching very, very shortly in the next couple of days. Today, by the way, is the 20th of February, so just to give you a holding point. So around about by the 25th of February, our first podcast should be out, and we'll be communicating with you, SAP Business One partners, on a regular basis, sharing information about best practices of working with Enterprise, best practices selling the product, best practices marketing it to your existing customer base, to new customers, really working to help you be successful with the product. All right, and then the other thing that people are often interested in is this, the users. So when your users get set up, all right, all the users appear in here, you map them through to an enterprise user, all right, and then when you map that through, you also map the SAP employee ID, and then you'll see across here, these are all the different mobile apps. So you have the ability to go in, let's say our CEO Morgan, I've decided I'm going to switch off his access to the sales functionality. All I do is I go here and I click edit, and then I go here and I find my mobile CRM, and then I'll switch off his access to that. Then we've also got the mobile dashboard, mobile delivery. Let's say I don't want him doing deliveries anymore. I'll switch off his access deliveries, and I don't want him entering expenses anymore. So again, I switch that off and then I hit save, and that's it. All right, the functionality is no longer available. He can no longer log on to those apps. Now, if he's left the company, then all I have to do is I hit this wipe button, and it will send a message to the Enterprise apps on his device, and it will clear off any data that's being stored locally on that device. So again, all the kinds of things that you would expect to have with a mobile application. Now, speaking of mobile applications, the final thing before we wrap up, a lot of people often ask, well, with all that location functionality, what about privacy? For example, if I go here and I click on map, what this will do is this can show me all of the people in my organization who have got the mobile apps, where they're logged on, and I can drill down and see exactly where they are. So if you want to keep a track of where your employees are at any given point in time, not for nefarious purposes, obviously, but let's say your delivery drivers, a customer rings up and says, where's the delivery driver? How long do you think it's going to be before he gets to me? Well, you can drill down on the map and you can take a look and you can give them a rough idea. But all of this functionality is driven using location services on the mobile devices. So it's driven in the platform. So if a user wants to, and they've got the ability to do this, they can go in and they can switch off the location functionality. All right. So again, our development team have thought about all those different aspects of the entire process. All right. So pretty powerful. And then when you're in here, in your map, you'll also see, there are other dashboards that you can also access from here. So now, Enterprise has been effectively in development for about a year. But we're really only just getting going with making the product available to more and more customers. And I think right now we've got orders for about 3,000 users where people are awaiting different things to happen. Then maybe they're finishing off their SAP Business One implementation, or they're waiting for us to adjust one little piece of functionality in the delivery module, or whatever the case may be. But the product has been incredibly well received by SAP Business One customers, partners such as yourselves, as well as the SAP team, who really love what Enterprise is about and see how it's going to help you as an SAP Business One partner increase your SAP Business One business. And because it is cloud and subscription revenue, the great thing is it's really going to help you start building that subscription revenue base in your organization. And those of you who follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook and what have you will have seen that I've been writing a lot about this lately, because if you're looking at the valuation of your business, one of the things that's key is really building up that annuity revenue, really building up that subscription revenue, because that's really, really important when it comes to the valuation of your business. But anyway, go and take a look on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, take a look at some of those articles I've written there. And of course, if you've got any questions, most importantly, if you've got questions about Enterprise, if you've got questions about becoming an Enterprise partner, reach out to me. My email address is rduffy@enterprise.com. I'm here to look after Asia Pacific. We have a team of folks based in Ireland, and they're looking after Europe. But the organization is growing. We have a plan to have 200 people in the organization by the end of this year. And so we're growing very, very rapidly, and we have a team of people who are ready, willing, and able to help you understand what Enterprise can do for your business as a partner, understand what Enterprise can do for your customers, and we are very, very excited to have the opportunity to work with you. So with that, thanks for taking the time to watch today's session. Keep your eyes open, because I will be delivering, as I said, the regular podcasts, and then a lot of additional demonstrations where, now that we've taken a look at the overview of the web app, we're going to start drilling down and looking at the specific functionality in each of the individual mobile apps, and look at the functionality and go through some end-to-end scenarios where, I'll take you into the sales functionality, and then you'll see it working in SAP Business One as well. But that's for another session. So for now, have a great day, and look forward to having you come on board with us as an Enterprise partner and helping us to democratize SAP Business One with Enterprise. Thanks again. Bye-bye.